Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Howdy, 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 and welcome to the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship here at Silverstone. I'm Austin Knight. I'm joined by Sebastian Bosher Williams. We got John Robertson in the production booth. You're here live watching Apex Racing TV.
Good evening, Austin. Good evening, everybody at home. And, well, welcome to the home of British motorsport, Silverstone circuit. Going to be in for an absolutely amazing night of racing today. It's been, Silverstone, it's got so much history, of course, updated since 2011, really provides a challenge for every driver who decides to take on said challenge. It's a great overtaking circuit with, a predominance really for lower downforce setups, Austin. So I think, tonight it's going to be all about the slipstream, all about who can manage their DRS use. It's going to be thoroughly interesting. And I tell you what, as well, Austin, we were having a discussion before the race got underway. You can't really talk about, or you can't go into this race without talking about what happened 1 week ago. It was a great race at Bathurst, thoroughly enjoyable, but Eddie Samborski making that mistake, he's going to be wanting to set the record straight today, and if we ever want to see a fired up Eddie Samborski, today is certainly the place that we're going to see it.
It certainly is. At times, there's a lot of stories heading into races, but this season we've had multiple stories, and they've all involved lap one incidents. We had that incident at Watkins Glen where Eddie Samborski was collected in there, and he put the entire field on notice that he was going to go at his best. And then we had that lap one incident at Bathurst last week as well. And I'm going to be honest, I'm looking for a little bit of fight, a little bit of spiciness, a little bit of nasty, and I am just all ready for it all.
Yeah, likewise, Austin, and I wonder what confidence Yuki Shirakawa would have brought from his race win 1 week ago as well. And I think Samborski's, he's notoriously quick around Silverstone. I think he's won the previous two races for both the previous 2 seasons that we've come to the Silverstone racing circuit. But you mentioned having multiple storylines. Yuki Shirakawa, I think, is going to be, riding a wave of confidence. So really intriguing race tonight. And just to add a little bit more spice into the mix, Austin, wind 17 kilometers an hour. That's really quite blustery for iRacing. So the wind is going to start affecting the cars. And, well, Silverstone was an old airbase. It's really
it's
exposed to the elements. So wind is going to be a real factor today. That could prove to be a little bit tricky for our drivers out there.
It really is. Crosswinds in these cars can really affect on how the car affect heading into a turn. Tailwinds as well. If you get a tailwind heading through Maggotts and Beckett's, it could affect your tires setup, the strategy, or even strategy following other cars. If the car in front of you is driving into a headwind, you're going to get a big draft effect from the car in front of you. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I am looking forward to it because it's Silverstone. It's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite tracks. I know. I have a favorite track outside of America. It's true.
Well, I think we can both be joined then of this being one of our favourite racing circuits.
No, I prefer the old version.
Oh, well, likewise, Austin. I totally prefer the old version. Bridge Corner, one of the most iconic corners in British motorsport, even in the whole world of motorsport. Really? Yeah, it's such an amazing corner. But, this new layout certainly has its benefits. I really enjoy the long run down towards Brooklands. I think it's turn 5 on the current layout. Really difficult braking zone. So, this layout certainly has its benefits. But, yeah, nothing can be sort of old school Silverstone.
Well, if you want to go old school, we can go to the 50s layout, where Maggotts and Beckett's and Chapel was just 2 corners.
That was also a really good layout. I mean, to be honest, there's no bad layout of Silverstone, and that's just because it's one of the best circuits in motor racing. Yeah,
so being around since 1950s is a good oldie right there. About 72 years of history around this track. And as you said, a big birthplace of British motorsports. It's still got a few years to go in on the 100 years that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has been around, but who's comparing?
Well, who can compare the two race circuits? Tell you what, though, Eddie Samborski really struggling out on the circuit at the moment. Currently sits 4th spot, and a new face, I do believe, to the top of the timing stands is Carlos Dresco. I don't believe he started on pole in the Formula 3.5 broadcast split, so a great qualifying session from him. Alex Garcia, though, purple through all the first 3 sectors, currently making their way through the final corner, Chapel Corner, up now towards Stowe. And drivers really close together. Austin, the top 11, separated by just over a second.
And look at this lap by Garcia so far. Purple, 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 purple. He's in that final sector right now, looking for a top of the times drive by Alex Garcia. 1 corner to go, but he runs out of time.
And that's absolutely heartbreaking for Garcia. That looked like one of the best laps we'd have seen all season. And Garcia, he was about a corner and a half away from completing that lap time. And we'll never know where that would have put him in the race order.
He'll be starting 5th. That would have been a pole position lap for sure if he was just a little bit quicker on the time right there. But it is our starting lineup. Carlos Direct Show is starting up on pole. Omar Baja in 2nd place, completes her front row, followed by Yuki Shirakawa and Eddie Samborski. Alex Garcia will be starting from 5th. Phil Reed, Cal Young, Mehmet Taski, Dennis Cornu, and Shane Lambert, followed by James Byrne and Leonardo Reiter. Right behind them, Morgan Kane and Miguel Crespo, Simone Pizzica and Jamie Byrne, followed by Daniel Gallus, Takashi Shinode, and Yaya Ennis Anakin, Jorge Lopez, and James Mallow at the end of our 21-car grid.
Cars then starting today's race, all barreling down towards the first corner. We've seen action aplenty in the Formula 1 race this season, as well as pretty much every time racing cars enter turn 1 in any form of racing capacity. So watch out for that really tricky opening few sectors actually around this Silverstone circuit. Going to be an absolutely fascinating race tonight, Austin.
It's certainly going to be edgier seat action. This new Silverstone layout, or I keep saying new, it's been around for at least 10 years, this layout. This layout is just so outstanding for opening lap battles and just long battles throughout the race. The countless side-by-side action, nose-to-tail action, heck, even 5-car trains actions and open wheeling. in the Formula 1 is so awesome. As we go 5 red lights, green, green, green. Here we go. Fantastic start by Shirakawa, diving it up onto the middle right there, and into second place now down to the inside of Abiyuki Shirakawa into the lead of this race.
Right, opening. Oh, sorry, Austin.
No, you're all good right there. Carves the red show. Round the outside, deep into the braking zone. Yuki Shirakawa is down to the inside right there. Now he's holding around to the outside. Durencho hopped a little bit of a curve right there. Shirakawa's on the outside trying to gather the speed, but watch his inside. That's Omar behind. Around goes by, and Eddie Samborski's collected in there as well. Cal Young goes flying through the air, and bang, crash, cars flying into the air. And I know this used to be a Royal Air Force base, and we got some cars airborne. Garcia, Baja, Ryder, Young, Samborski, Cornu, Malo, Pizzica, Shinoda as well. Oh my gosh. It's happened again.
It's happened again 2 times then this season. A huge opening lap incident. You're right, Samborski.
3 times this season.
3 times.
Bathurst
as well, you're right. So Samborski, Garcia, Cal Young, and Leonardo Reuter, Simone Pizzica as well. Add those to the list of drivers that are currently in the pit lane, but that only scratches the surface of the amount of cars that will have picked up some damage. Apart from Carlos Dreshko and Yuki Shirakawa there.
I think the top 5 are only the top 5 are not affected in that. Shane Lambert was the first one to avoid that. It started from 3rd place. Yuki Shirakawa was side by side with Omar Baja. Omar Baja, I think, just got a little bit too much mustard off the exit cold tires, and then it was just a Constantine effect because that was right on the racing line, and everybody was involved in that. As we're going to start seeing cars headed to the pit lane, this was a chaotic start. We see Kane into the pits, Tasky also as well. Crespo is heading into the pit lane as well. Yeah, you can see he's lacking a little bit of downforce right there. He's missing the front wing. As we go back to well, our live pictures, and I guess a opportunity for us to catch our breaths.
Yes,
and for me, my voice.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, tell you what, Austin, I'll give the viewers a little bit of an update then, and the big gainer out of all of those chaos at the start has got to be Jorge Lopez, currently up 14 places from where he started. You see him rounding Brooklyn's corner into Luffield and really benefiting, as I mentioned. So Tasky, Keane, Crespo all have had to come into the pits to repair the damage. Omar Baja, another driver that was involved in on that opening lap incident, currently in 12th spot. He's lost 10 places, so disastrous start from his perspective. Shane Lambert starting to catch James Byrne through Maggots and Beckett's through Chapel. Does he decide to use a little bit of DRS, Austin, so early on in the day? I do believe he has. Rear wing closes. In fact, scrap that. DRS not being used by Shane Lambert.
It is being used by James, though. James was using DRS right there to try to pull away from Shane and get out of that draft range. So it was being used by one driver, but not the other. And, well, when you're in that entire thing, so this is the incident right here. And, oh, yeah, it was synchronized spinning right there. That just chaos, unavoidable contact for everybody.
Yeah, it certainly was.
At some points, you just see cars flying into a crash and just thinking, they're going to slow down, right? I don't think either of the drivers in the back slow down at all for that.
No, I think that's, you know, touching on the fundamental issue there of sim racing is you don't have that hazard perception, and you just hope that the path will clear ahead of you and you can have the proverbial parting of the Red Seas and be able to find your way through. Great battle on your screen at the moment between Omar Baja.
This isn't oval stock car racing where Days of Thunder, you know, you see the smoke, and the thing is aim for the smoke and glue it down, because the moment you get there, the car's going to be drifting down the track. This is road racing. Cars stay where they're going to be.
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully.
Exactly. Well, hopefully, and you know, you've touched on a really important point there, Austin. You know, drivers are told, or it's almost ingrained into them, that when you spin, you hold your brakes, you stay still, you stay predictable, and that really sort of minimises the chance that you will get that sort of parting of the Red Seas effect. So you're right, you just have to slow down. You really have to respect the yellow flags, and like it is in real motor racing, you know, a double waved yellow means you have to slow down and be prepared to stop. And judging by the replays we saw there, certainly many drivers were nowhere near the speed where they were easily able to throw out the anchors and stop. So yeah, it's an unfortunate incident to start off this race, and it's really sort of diluted what would have been a great race. You know, Sam Borsley coming through the field, Garcia, the pace that he showed in qualifying as well, Austin, not going to really be able to see that come to fruition, but we still have a good race. 14 cars in on the action so far. Lap 4 already, and Lambert and Byrne, this battle feels like it's going to go on for, well, hopefully the rest of the race.
And time for my weekly complaint to iRacing. We seriously need a consideration for safety cars on road courses.
I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you there, Austin. Bring the pack together, allow them to fix the damage, and let's go racing once again. And, you know, if that was in real motorsport, it would have been a red flag, almost undoubtedly.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That would have been a red flag, and Netflix would have ate that up in a heartbeat, as very wide goes James Byrne.
James Byrne really starting to feel the pressure from Shane Lambert. Lambert has been a little bit missing, you have to say, in the first sort of part of this season. Was so quick towards the end of last season. Had a little bit of a look there, heading towards Copse Corner. Had to back out of it. I wonder if Lambert made a little bit of contact, because he's fallen way back from James Byrne up ahead of him, Austin.
He really has. He's struggling with pace as here comes Shane Lambert. Just, oh, woo! A little bit too spicy right there. A lot of mustard. On a part of the track, you really do not see cars losing the back end.
So Woodcote Corner, it's a flat-out left right-hander, I should say. And yeah, you don't... It's not a traction zone, not a traction zone, I should say. So not quite sure how.
He was running on the inside of the curbs and had a rear tire on the curb. That's why.
Even so, you don't tend to see that too often. So Lambert really finding the extremities of the racing circuit and really seeing that that's not necessarily the fastest way around the Silverstone circuit. And
curb
Carlos,
plus straps plus tailwind. I don't know. It's weird. You're right. It's weird.
It certainly is. And I tell you what, that's brought in Jorge Lopez into the mix as well. Lopez starting to gain on this battle. You see him in the background rounding the final corner before you get onto this back straight. But Lambert has already caught back up to James Byrne. So, as I said, Austin, I just have a feeling that this battle is going to continue for the whole race. And, well, if James Byrne continues to miss the apex like that, Shane Lambert might just be able to find a way through.
He really is, as we are still looking at Shane. He's chasing down Byrne, so he's still right there. But watch out behind him, because Jorge Lopez is chasing them down as well. So 3-car fight for 4th place. So we fly through Copse Corner and into Magus Beckers Chapel. Different lines approaching this. You saw Shane dip out to the right, and then dive right back in to try to get a better run through Magus Beckers Chapel. And I think this is a big opportunity for Shane Lambert. No DRS being used by either of them this time by, but Jorge Lopez is closing down as well. As 1, 2, and 3, they come in this fight for 4th place.
And it's really crucial now for Shane Lambert to make the move past James Byrne, because you're right, Jorge Lopez is just gaining on this battle a real rate of knots, and soon it's going to become a 3-way battle for 4th place, and that's going to complicate Shane Lambert's ability to get past James Byrne. So Lambert is starting to feel the pressure as we have a look and see what happened exactly to... there's a little bit of a replay, but we're back to live pictures, and Jorge Lopez getting past Shane Lambert, and Shane Lambert...
It looks like he had a spinning... You know what what happened to Shane? I think he was involved. He did get into a little bit of a hit right there, and he's suffering with floor damage.
Yeah,
actually, he's just let him by. He's just let him by.
He has just let him by. So a tactical move there. I was saying that, you know, Shane Lambert wouldn't or needed to make his way past James Byrne to avoid the complexity of having a 3-way battle for 4th place, and maybe that's Shane Lambert's way of negating that complexity. Is just letting Lopez by and following him through as he tries to make his way past James Byrne. I wonder if he might have got a slowdown. This is Jorge Lopez and how I assume he managed to get through the carnage of lap 1.
Yeah, he slowed down, and this is, oh, well. Jorge Lopez Exposito parting the Red Seas, taking it all in, and, well, he was certainly allowed to pass.
He was this supreme driving there from Jorge, really reading the road up ahead of him. He was, slowing down, prepared to stop, as it's almost in the letter of the law. And that benefited him greatly. Yes, he's 11 seconds off the race lead, and if he'd gone a little bit quicker, maybe he could have, managed to. Oh, big accident there between Omar Baja.
Baja, big spin and into the wall, as well as Takashi into the wall as well.
So Takashi Shindoy, sorry, Austin. So Shindoy and Baja making contact, and we're starting to get a very reduced grid. That's 11 cars now still running out on the circuit, Austin.
Yeah, 11 cars in, and honestly, this has turned less from a race and more into a episode of the Hunger Games.
It really is, and it's almost surprising. You don't tend to really appreciate Silverstone as being a great track for a little bit of attrition. Down the inside, though, goes Jorge Lopez. That becomes the outside line as he head around Luffield corner. James Byrne defending on the inside. Contact made between the two cars. They head through Woodcote corner. Byrne still somehow ahead Austin, but they head towards Cops corner. Anything can happen into the flat-out right-hander.
Anything certainly can happen as wide goes Lopez once more, chasing down Byrne. Using all the track, no off-track penalties here in iRacing, just off-track X's, but that's just a little bit of safety rating donated right there for some of that I rating that he's looking forward to as this fight continues on down the Hanger Straight.
Stowe corner, Jorge Lopez pulls out to the inside, and by the time they hit the brake pedal, it's Lopez ahead of James Byrne. Byrne goes wide for good measure, almost getting close to picking up a slow down. Late under brakes though, he goes into the Vale chicane, but by the time that they reach the start-finish line, Jorge Lopez will find himself in 4th place, James Byrne in 5th, and Shane Lambert, Austin, he wasn't there to capitalise. If his plan was to allow Lopez to go through and to find his way past James Byrne for Shane Lambert to follow suit, that hasn't happened, and Lambert falling off the back of these dueling two at the moment.
Yeah, Shane Lambert is falling away, so I am thinking more that he does have a little bit of floor damage just affecting the downforce of that car, which might explain why he was losing traction on a straightaway around that flat-out right-hander at Woodcote, as Lopez and Byrne are fighting with each other, but Lopez up into 4th, and he's chasing down for 3rd right now. It's going to be a big uphill battle if he wants to chase down Phil Reed, but up in the lead of the race, Carlos Derecho and Yuki Shirakawa, 1.4 seconds separate them right there.
Yuki Shirakawa was managing to stay within a second for the first sort of 4 or 5 laps of this race, but Carlos Droshko starting to extend that gap. Last time around, he was a 1/10 of a second or so quicker than Yuki Shirakawa, so Yuki needs to really rally as we head into the mid-portion of the race. Needs to find a little bit of pace. He's lucky that he doesn't have any challenge from behind from Phil Reed at the moment. Reed some 4 seconds away from Yuki Shirakawa, so Yuki has got his sort of space on the track to start finding his own pace. He can't even afford to make a mistake while trying to build up his pace, unless Yuki simply just wants to play the the championship game. His main rival Samborski out of the race today, so Shirakawa can just go for a safe second place. We'll have to see what Yuki decides in the long run. Tell you what, a great race though from a driver that we haven't really mentioned, Phil Reed in 3rd place. He's up 3 places from where he started, a driver that avoided all the carnage on the opening lap and just lapping away in the podium places, doing an absolutely superb job, Austin.
Yeah, Phil Reed did a fantastic job to avoid all that. He had a very okay qualifying, started 7th place, and, well, he was behind both of them. Both of the initial spinners that just carved his way through there. I believe he was the car that went immediately off the track and just darted across the grass.
I think he was as well, Austin, which is has proven a really good strategy for him.
It's risky around here, though, because there are a few access roads that are in that grass and hidden in there. And I remember, if you remember running at Zandvoort in these cars, if you hit that access road while off the track, it does pop up the car because it is a change of elevation. So Phil Reed doing a good job right there to get that car safely into third place and avoiding that collision up front. Honestly, that collision, you can see any of the drivers who are up there right now and see on how they took that line, and it's going to be impressive either way because that start was chaotic. A big curb strike right there.
Yeah, talking about Phil Reed sort of running the risk of damaging his floor by heading off into the grass and maybe sort of being thrown up in the air by an access road, while Phil Reed could easily pick up a little bit of floor damage by taking the extreme amount of curb he did on the inside of the fail chicane. Reed will need to be wary of that, start to dial back his pace just a tad to keep the car in a raceable condition, because it's not only sort of floor damage that affects your pace, it can also affect suspension as well, Austin, which could ultimately lead to the car being undrivable and Reed falling out of the race itself.
Yeah, and we're going to see what happens to him near the end of this race. You know, he's trying to stay ahead of Lopez as well. Jamie Byrne trying to chase down Daniel Gallus ahead of him. And he's going to be enjoying this race as well. Had a okay start. Don't believe he was involved in that crash, and he was just playing the safe route through there as well. But the car ahead of him, Daniel Gallus, he was involved in that crash. Actually, no, Gallus did go through there.
I think you're right. I think Gallus did end up managing to navigate his way through the incident. I don't think we got many drivers actually racing that were caught up in the opening lap scuffle, I think we should call it. I think most of the drivers...
Morgan Keane and Takashi were the only ones that went into the pit for damage. The other cars up there, we do have off tracks. I'm guessing Yaya, Ennis. Yeah, we saw Yaya have a incident. Shane Lambert also as well, as there is Jamie Byrne down the inside on the hanger straight, had the speed, and up there in 7th place. I believe some cars might have had a little bit of a spin in the grass trying to avoid it all.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's a turn up for the books. Jorge Lopez will do fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 42.937. The first driver then into the 1 minute 42.
Gallus is going slow. I think Gallus just had a little bit of spin after being passed by Byrne. So here's Gallus on the straightaway. And we're going to be seeing Byrne just fly right past him. Yep, there goes Byrne down towards the inside. And I believe heading into the final corner, we're going to be seeing Daniel Gallus have a little bit of spin. I saw a little bit of smoke in the air in the following camera shot. And is this a moment of too much mustard? He saved it. Lost a lot of speed though, but he saw the car about to spin. He locked up the brakes, got it going into a straight line, and then lifted off the brakes and get the car rolling. Beautiful save by Gallus right there to prevent a bad issue from going even worse. On board, Shane Lambert chasing down James Byrne. Shane closing that gap to James. Up ahead of him, we saw him drop away from James as Lopez was approaching him and trying to use Lopez as a little bit of a pick, but that is not going to be easy road for Shane Lambert, as he's going to have to earn this one by himself. Last lap, James Byrne was about half a second slower than Shane Lambert. James, last lap, had a little bit of an issue as Shane is closing down in that final sector.
I think something must have happened, sorry to cut across you there, Austin, to James Byrne, because we saw, a few laps ago, Lambert was, 2 seconds or so adrift of James Byrne, but that's very much changed its course, and Lambert, another driver to be caught out, just like Daniel Gallus was. Earlier when I mentioned the wind was pretty strong, and we're on an Air Force base, or an old Army Air Force base that, because of its nature, it is in a place where there's lots of wind. I think the wind is starting to catch out some of our drivers and making the rear end really difficult to control.
Yeah, the cars are getting lighter as the fuel is being burned off, so these cars become a lot more sensitive to the air. Well, they're always sensitive to the air, but a little bit more. These are not like the, these are not ground effect machines like we have today or in the past, where airflow over the car doesn't affect the car as much. These over the air, it will still affect them as we fly through Copse Corner. And Lambert still putting pressure on Byrne. And things are definitely heating up between these two as we fly through Maggots, Beggots, and Chapel. As Lambert, well, if this continues on, Jamie Byrne behind them might catch them up.
I think he will. Just having a look at the lap times there, last lap, Jamie Byrne 0.8 of a second quicker than James Byrne, 0.9, almost a second in fact quicker than Shane Lambert. So Jamie Byrne is on a mission and he will be getting very close to the back of this fight. And Shane Lambert,
lock up right there by Lambert, or a little bit of a spin. There was tire smoke and a big drop of pace by Shane Lambert, trying to get a little bit overzealous and a little bit spicy on that overtake opportunity ahead of him, but he's just lost it out right there on the rear end, locked up the brakes, and he has to start right over.
this is the battle then for second, for first place. Yuki Shirakawa in second. A new personal best on that previous lap for Yuki, 0.2 of a second or so quicker than Carlos Dreshko, and crucially Shirakawa now within that 1 second window. That's going to give him a little bit more pace down the back straight. Austin, you know, when I said that Yuki needed to find a little bit of pace, well, that's exactly what he's done out on the circuit. And once again, we have a thrilling battle for a race lead in a Formula 3.5 race.
We certainly do. Thrilling indeed, as everybody is closing in on each other. Derecho, Shirakawa, last lap between them. Well, 0.2 advantage Shirakawa. Shirakawa putting in his fastest lap of the race of a 1:43 flat. Carlos Derecho has not gone under a 1:43 yet this race. 1.2 seconds separates them as we are closing in on 9 laps to go here. 8 laps to go here at Silverstone.
So 8 laps then for Yuki Shirakawa to try and make his way past Carlos Dreshko and up into the lead of this race to get a back-to-back victory. Last lap though, Carlos Dreshko, the quicker driver of the pair, and Carlos Dreshko finally finds himself within the 1:42 window. And heartbreakingly for Shirakawa, he was a 43.01. So this battle raging on. I think Yuki, though, Austin has made a mistake in the first sector of this lap. 1.5 seconds now separating your top two, and that battle that promised so much starting to dwindle out. But this battle that is continuing to promise a lot, it's going very hard as they head through Village and up towards Brooklands Corner.
Spot overtake by James Byrne. First sector fastest of all drivers by Shane Lambert as he is closing down, forcing James to really push the track limits right there as we saw him go deep into Brooklands, and I believe that is where the wind is affecting these cars. Tailwind heading into that corner, making it absolutely difficult for anybody to make it through that corner safely, but James is pushing that car all the way to what we can do legally with that car as we fly through Copse Corner and into Magus, Beckus, and Chapel as Shane and James battle it out. Half a second between them. Can James hold it on, or can Shane lock down an attack?
It's all going to be about who has got enough DRS uses left in this race. We know that we saw Byrne earlier on in the race using a few DRSs to keep ahead of Shane Lambert. Has Lambert managed to save a few extra uses to maybe surprise James Byrne? I wonder. Byrne very tight towards the apex heading in to the final chicane. That's not going to help his lap time as Lopez sets the new fastest lap. Tell you what, Jorge Lopez is absolutely flying in this race. He started 20th place, but you wouldn't know it judging by his current position and pace. And Lopez, you know, a driver that's just, you know, in my mind, like Alex Garcia, you know, had a better qualifying. I think we would have had, you know, he would have been certainly up there battling for the race lead, judging
I
by
believe he
his
invalidated
pace.
his laps. I believe his laps were invalidated in qualifying. So this is a big fight for Lopez. When we saw Lopez at the start of this race, as here comes Shane Lambert on James Byrne right in that draft. He backs out of it, heading into Brooklyn, trying to force another mistake by Byrne. Byrne stays within the track limit. Shane taking a wider entry into that corner, trying to carry more speed around this long right-hander. And I can tell you, these fans will be on the edge of their seats right here as we fly through the old start-finish straight and into Cops Corner. And this is where Shane Lambert, where we usually see Shane Lambert have that advantage. Also, advantage Yuki Shirakawa put in a 2/10 faster lap again on Carlos Torchero, and he is closing that gap down as through Max Bex and Chapel. Lambert kept a very tight line through Chapel as Byrne went very wide, so both of them having a little bit of different driving styles and driving lines as Derecho takes the new fastest lap of a 1:42.778.
That will alert Yuki Shirakawa just a little bit, because yeah, Shirakawa was being able to start to close in that gap to the race leader, but Dreshko a supremely quick lap on the last tour. And Shirakawa's got to find even more pace out of his Formula 3.5 machinery. Lambert, I wonder, Austin, if he's just biding his time, starting to, you know, analyse where James Byrne might be a little bit slower, and Lambert to really sort of surprise James Byrne as we get to the closing stages of the race. And you know, you can sort of see why Shane Lambert would be going for that tactic. Lopez is so far up ahead that he's realistically not going to be able to catch him, so this is a battle for fifth, and that's the highest that these two can realistically aim to be in this race today. So I think Lambert just biding his time, but of course while he plays that tactic, Jamie Byrne starts to gain, starts to reduce that gap even more, and then it becomes a three-way battle, and we know all about the complexities which a three-way battle, Austin, can bring to the table.
Yeah, that battle is starting to heat up between these two, and as they're starting to close in, we still got Jamie chasing down on James up ahead. Jamie and James, the father-son duo, the Burns. Always nice to see them in the Formula 3.5 championship as well. As we can see, the gap between Lambert and Byrne, as throughout the laps, it has been a constant closing in. 1.8 seconds now between them. I remember it was about 3 seconds. New fastest lap by Yuki Shirakawa, and now new fastest lap by Lopez.
That's a really interesting end to the race that we have in store for you. Then Shirakawa starting to find the pace once again. It almost seems that they're, you know, Dreshko pushes for a lap, finds a little bit more time, and then has to back off, cool the tyres a little bit. And then Shirakawa goes, well, I'm going to go a little bit quicker, does, and then has to back off. So they're sort of toing and froing at the moment, and Shirakawa, and not, sort of frustratingly for him, just outside of that 1 second. That's a very late apex for Shane, Jamie Byrne, I should say, running wide through turn 3. That's not going to help him in his chances of getting up into 5th spot. So everybody starting to find pace, starting to push in. As I mentioned, Austin, this is going to be an absolutely enthralling race to the end.
It really is. Even with not a lot of cars on the track right now after that opening lap massacre, as Shane Lambert, big issue off the exit. It looks like the car skipped a gear or accidentally went down a gear. We saw that puff of smoke out of the back of the car. That's going to be easy pickings for Jamie Byrne.
And Lambert once again then struggling on the exit out of Luffield corner.
Is that a little bit of wheel spin or something? Because that was a very odd situation. The car didn't step out at all. I just saw a puff of smoke out of the rear of the car, like he accidentally downshifted when he wanted to upshift. And I've done that. I've had that issue before. It's not a nice issue, but he's really struggling to keep that car on pace.
He is, and you know, that's the second, you know, big mistake from Lambert that's lost him a position. So he now finds himself in 7th spot. So we now have the battle between the Byrnes. James Byrne currently leads Jamie Byrne, but Jamie Byrne's lap time, last lap, well, he was 0.3 of a second quicker than James. So that's sort of a inter-family battle, which certainly going to reign on and continue until the end of this race. Update on your battle for the race lead. Yuki Shirakawa is just so close to breaking that 1 second margin, but every time he just about manages to dip below the second mark. Carlos Greshko has a mega couple of corners and once again just drives away as the battle further down the field between Takashi Shindoi and Morgan Keane. And these two, well, they've had a race of certainly of many tales, but at least they could have a little bit of a battle, Austin, before the race draws to a close. And miraculously, they're both still on the lead lap, so impressive stuff from both of these drivers.
Yeah, Takashi, I would say, has a little bit of an advantage of the speed down the straightaway, but Morgan Keane is just right ahead of Takashi, looking for an inside move, a big look. He's not fully sending it, not committed to the send right there. Heads up, driving by both of them, keeping their wits on their head. They've both had a rough day as they both went into the pits after being involved in that opening crash. And I think they're just enjoying their time out there.
I mean, when you start to get into the phase that these two are in at the moment, you know, when you've had an incident earlier on in the race, just having a battle with somebody can just be what you need to turn a really dull race into an enjoyable race once again. So, yeah, I think these two are just having fun, not really battling for much, certainly not going to be much iRating on offer between 11th and 12th spot. So I think just having a little bit of fun.
They're both in positive iRating gains because Takashi is the lowest iRating driver in this field of 3,400. That is his iRating. And the SLF of this field is actually very high. So they're both going to be getting about 10 to 20 iRating respectively. And that will put Morgan Keane into 4,200.
A little bit of an incentive then for Morgan Keane to try
here comes Takashi. Down into Maggots, Bexton Chapel, finds the gap, goes through it, and a beautiful move right there by Takashi.
Great move. Really brave to make an overtake into Maggots and Beckett's. You don't tend to see many moves there, and when you do, they're always something to write home about. And we certainly could add Takashi Shindoi's move to that illustrious list. And Keane in 12th spot, but I wonder, can Keane come back? Can he find a little bit of pace? Will this battle rain on, or will Takashi just sort of start to drive off into the sunset? I wonder. But Austin, we're already on lap 19 out of 21. This race is flying by, and we only have, well, there is Carlos Dreshko crossing the line. So we're 2 laps left to go in this race, in Shirakawa 2 seconds now behind Carlos Dreshko. I think Shirakawa's had another little bit of a mistake.
He's put on the burners. He's put on the burners right there. A 1:42.8, a blistering lap time by Carlos right there. He was just waiting for the opportunities to use his DRS, and he's finally got that opportunity. And now he's just putting the rest of the field on notice and pulling away from everybody. And, well, that 2 second gap is speaking for itself right there. No DRS down that straightaway, though, as we head into Brooklyn. Shirakawa, though, using DRS. Fastest Sector 4 of all the drivers by Derecho last lap, and fastest Sector 5 by Shirakawa last lap as well. So neither of the drivers backing away. 1/10 dug into the advantage by Shirakawa. 1.9 seconds separates them both. Reed and Lopez are separated just by 4 seconds, not 4/10 of a second. That would have been impressive as 4/10 of a second, but no, it's 4 seconds.
It's one of those races, isn't it, Austin, where it promised so much, and then, you know, what we saw in the opening lap with a little bit of contact, and the race sort of just starts to peter out, and you end up feeling a little bit like you're going mad in the commentary booth. But thankfully, we've got James Mallow and Yaha Akin to the rescue. A battle 3/10 separating these two. A battle for 9th and 10th. Mallow gaining as they head up towards Copse Corner, towards Maggots and Beckett's. Austin, will we see another dive to the inside heading into Maggots?
It will be a risky opportunity by them. White flag is in the air. New fastest lap by Shirakawa. But 2 laps to go for James Mallow. Actually, no, this will be their, yeah, it will be 1 lap to go for them as well, because they are behind the leader. Nope, they're ahead of the leader, so one more lap to go for them. I'm going crazy up here. It's been a while.
It's one of those races where everything just goes a little bit wrong. Big send from James Mallow. That put a kid a little bit adrift of the apex in James Mallow. Oh, but Mallow's round in the final corner.
Oh, that's heartbreak by James Mallow. He's going to have to take the white flag without the fight as Yaya pulls away. Carlos Derecho comes across the line of the old start-finish straight, and he's just already trying to keep it within limits. 1.7 seconds separates him and Shirakawa as last time by through Maggots, Beggets, and Chapel. Derecho, Shirakawa, 1.8 seconds separates them both as they're closing in on lap traffic ahead of him. Are they going to be getting out of the way or attacking in their own fight? And there goes Morgan Keane down towards the inside, just letting Carlos by, and he's going to let Shirakawa by, I believe, as well. But Carlos Derecho, 2 corners to go right now. One right-hander, and then the final right-hander, and shaking the flag. Carlos Derecho wins at Silverstone.
What an amazing race by him. The only driver, in fact, on the grid to have not changed position. He's finished exactly where he started. A lights the flag victory then for Carlos Derecho, and sets the fastest lap as well for good measure, I do believe. So supreme race, and a shout out to this man Jorge Lopez, up 16 places from where he started. Yes, he was helped by the incident that we saw on the opening lap, but great driving, great awareness, and James Byrne wins out on the battle of the Burns. Jamie Byrne will have to settle for 6th spot. But even, you know, after losing almost half of our cars on the grid, Austin, that was still an incredibly enthralling race, and certainly shows how amazing Formula 3.5 can be at every single racetrack under every single circumstance.
It really is, and smile is definitely going to be on his face as Phil Reed has got a massive smile as he burns it down and puts a big old 11 on the tarmac here as he puts on a little bit of a smoke show right there. Phil Reed over the moon with this result. He's going to be very happy in his return to the Formula 3.5 series. I haven't seen Phil in a while. Glad to see him doing good. Congrats on the podium, Phil.
Phil's got a lot of support in the YouTube chat as well, and he certainly put on a great return to the series, but don't think his engineers will be particularly pleased with him after
that's
doing
the end
that
of the race.
burnout. It's all good until you get back to the pits and you have to replace your gearbox and your clutch and your transmission because you've got a little bit over exuberant.
Who cares about car integrity? Carlos Derecho takes the win, followed by Yuki Shirakawa. Phil Reed behind them. Jorge Lopez in 4th, while James and Jamie Byrne. Shane Lambert, Daniel Gallus, Yaya, Ennis Ankin, and James Mallow. Takashi Shinoda in 11th, 5, and Morgan Keane, Omar Baja, Dennis Cornu, Mehmet Taski, Miguel Crespo, and Alex Garcia. Cal Young and Eddie Samborski, followed by Leonardo Reiter and Simone Pizka at the end of our full-on results. And we are actually joined by our driver that finished in 3rd place, ladies and gentlemen, Phil Reed.
Hello.
Hello. Phil, how was that race, and how was that start?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty hectic, wasn't it? You know, I got a bit lucky, I guess. A few people, you know, made it a little bit easy for me. And yeah, it's well, I got lucky. Was able to use a bit of the tarmac, and then yeah, it was pretty much that was it. That was pretty much the race.
Yeah, you got into 3rd position. You were the first car not behind all the chaos that made it through there, and that qualifying of yours definitely helped in your situation. And to do it here at Silverstone, how you feeling about that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels pretty good. I kind of came into it, you know, I sort of looked at who the drivers were in here. You know, I've been away for a while, so there's a couple of people that I didn't recognize. Obviously, a very, very many people that I did. And I sort of said to myself, hey, you know what, if I can qualify top 5, you know, well, 5th, you know, I'll be happy. And you know, 6th was pretty good. It wasn't the best lap in the world, but Yeah, I haven't done any running all week, so this is the first time I've jumped into it.
Wow.
I guess, qualifying, considering all that, it felt pretty good. And then, yeah, I mean, the start felt all right. I expected, maybe I'll get some wheel spin. I haven't done a start for a while, but no, that went smooth enough. And then obviously everything happened, and then the pace through the race felt pretty good. I wasn't completely dropping off the front two, who are absolutely rapid.
You actually set a faster lap time than Carlos in the lead. Your fastest lap. So
yeah, I mean,
you were on pace.
A little bit DRS assisted, I would imagine. I suspect possibly the same for most people, but I was able to burn 3 on that lap.
Okay, yeah, 3 might be a little bit of overkill, but we are at Silverstone. Welcome back, Phil. Before we let you go celebrate this podium like we saw you doing in the arena by putting down a nice old 11, anybody you want to thank?
You like those burnouts? They were pretty good. I felt pretty good about them.
I like anything louder that puts out a lot of smoke. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's not many people to thank these days. Most of that stuff's behind me. I mean, I'll thank. I mean, obviously, I'll always thank Ed, Mr. Samborski, because he's the Formula Renault 3.5 guy. He puts obviously a lot of effort into setting up this kind of thing with broadcast and getting the calendar and all sorted. So I'll always give a shout out to Ed. Shout out to all the people come out and race. It's a brilliant car, as I'm sure you can see. And shout out to my boy Alex in chat. I'm sure he's still there. I don't know if he's still there, but if he is, I'm giving him a shout out as well. But that's it. And obviously thanks to you guys for just doing this. There you go.
And thank you for being out there on track and giving us all a show to enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Reed finishing in 3rd place. Sebastian, any final words?
Well, what an absolutely incredible race we saw today. I think Carnage comes to the forefront of my mind, but a really, really enjoyable race nevertheless. Congratulations to Carlos Dreshko, Yuka Shirakawa, and Phil Reed, your podium finishers. But once again, as I mentioned, Austin, Formula 3.5 never fails to deliver.
It certainly doesn't. Next week, we head to Japan for, I believe, our first time ever in these cars, heading to Fuji Speedway. It's going to be a absolutely wonderful event down that long straightaway. I think we might see the debut of a few drivers going for that medium downforce package. We saw it at Bathurst, and we might see it again, or maybe somebody might try that low package out. I highly suggest not doing that, but Formula 3.5 action heading to Fuji International Speedway next week. Thank you everybody for joining us here on Apex Racing TV for the iRacing Formula 3.5 Championship. I've been joined by Sebastian Bosher Williams with John Robertson in the production booth. I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.